Hey guys, Nick Campanella here. You know, I wanted to do the video because someone asked me the other day, um, if I really worked my disability into my story, and um, they wanted to know how it got all started, tailored timepieces, my watch journey, and the watch that started it all. Um, so I figured I would take you back to a few years ago, and tell you about my journey and my story. Um, so I was casually searching through Marketplace. I wasn't really looking for anything serious, really just trying to kill the time. I had gotten $1,000 for college graduation, and my parents were very much, um, you know, transparent with me, essentially saying, "Hey, this isn't. You can do whatever you want with this money, but it's the less amount of money you're going to get from us until you get yourself a job." So, me being at the time a 23-year-old kid, wanted to go and buy a watch. I felt that even back then, I felt that a watch was a great way to mark those moments. And so I went ahead and brought a clean Breitling Colt Quartz. It was a 44 millimeter in gray, and I was really enamored with it the second I got it on my wrist. Not necessarily because it was a piece that was all encompassing, but I had up until that point I had never had something that, I would say was a mainstream brand. Maybe some micro brands, some Tissot, maybe some Seiko, but nothing too crazy. And so the second I got it on my wrist, that was the moment everything really started to shift. The Breitling Colt Quartz was, of course, not flashy. It's not gold. It's not tourbillon. But it had a purpose. And to me, that purpose was finishing school and really marking that moment. It was originally designed for military use, and of course, I'm not a super active guy. I'm not super, I would say, physically fit, even if I'm being honest. But for some reason, it just spoke to me, and it had everything standard: the 600 meters of water resistance, a super quartz movement. It was 10 times more accurate than any quartz watch that I had ever gotten before. And that bezel just really snapped when you turn it. But more than that, I think it really gave me confidence. It was the first, like I said, big boy purchase I made after college graduation. And it felt like I had arrived, even if I didn't know where yet. And I had bought this watch from a gentleman in Rhode Island who I was, I'm still connected with to this day. But a few months later, I decided I had to list it. Essentially, I mean, I came home with the watch, and the second my dad found out about it, he said, "You had $1,000 in your bank account, and the watch was $800." He's like, "You spent $800 on a watch." Again, up until that point, I really only had Quartz, maybe some micro brands. So I sold it. I sold it, and I took better photos. I wrote a solid description, the whole shebang. I shared the story of how I got it. And 2 weeks later, within 48 hours, I'm sorry, about 2 weeks later, it had sold. And, the payment was, I had met the guy, and the deal was done within 48 hours. It sold, and I had made a profit. So that flip the tiny moment of taking something I thought I would have lost money on and turning it into something I could make money on was just, I think, the spark that is eventually became Taylor Timepieces. And for those of you who don't know me, the reason why I'm sitting down usually in a lot of these videos is because I have disability, cerebral palsy, and I needed a job out of college that I could do from home. That was very good for people with limited mobilities. Now I can walk, and but I do have some trouble walking around, and I do have some trouble, with long distances. So I needed a job that I can do from home, and after that first sale, I was in. I mean, I started flipping watches more. I'm really documenting the process. I found at the time a good community where a whole group of people were going to learn to buy and sell those watches on Facebook. I'm not going to name that group because I'm no longer part of that group, but I did find it helpful, and I will give them credit there. But, in that community with the like-minded individuals, learning that this wasn't just a one-time thing, but that this could be a job. I learned everything I could about value and building trust with clients and photography and storytelling. And it wasn't just selling watches for me. It was curating that experience and feeling like I could build something on my own. Up until that point, especially as a man with a disability, I felt that I always needed a lot of help with stuff. So building a business around watches and, the idea of time, when I myself have always kind of felt that I was on a lot of borrowed time, was just a really unique process. And eventually I built Taylor Timepieces from that one flip. That was just really a big passion. It was a passion, yes, for watches, but it was more about a passion for connecting with people, a passion for building something. I really love building something in general. And a few months later, here's where it gets wild. The gentleman who originally sold me the watch really liked what I was doing. And he came back, again, not to sell me a watch, but to invest in me, in Taylor Timepieces. And he had been watching my growth, from Facebook, and we had connected through that Facebook platform, and he saw a brand and an audience and someone that was able to tell a story that was unlike a lot of other people. And I'm really grateful for that mission. And the very watch that started it all came from the connection that we made, that made us, again, not partners, but, he did invest in the business. And everything kind of went full circle. So what's the takeaway here? I think it's that idea that one small decision, whether it's a Facebook message to buy a $1,000 watch with the Quartz movement, or to start that thing that you really wanted to start, or to buy that watch rather than sleep on it, can completely change your life. To me, the Breitling Colt Quartz wasn't just a watch. It was that first domino in this process in building this business that I'm really proud of. This spark and that moment. And I will always be grateful for that. If you have a story to tell, or you have a watch that changed your path, drop a comment. I would love to hear your story in the comments. And yeah, if you're just getting started in the watch world, maybe this video is your Colt moment. Like, subscribe, and hit that bell, because I've got more stories, more breakdowns, and more collector's tips along the way. Catch you in the next one. Thanks so much for listening.